Welcome to the ITSM Practice Podcast.
Welcome back to the ITSM Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Luigi Ferri. Today, we dive deep with Stefano, an ITIL master and Prince 2 practitioner. He is here to show the art of providing feedback that not only informs, but transforms. Stefano will share actionable strategies rooted in ITIL principles to help us nurture growth and excellence in our teams. Get ready to change how you communicate and elevate your team dynamics. On your marks, get set, go!
Hi everyone, thank you all for listening and thank you Luigi for having me on your show. My name is Stefano, I'm a certified ITIL Master and Prince 2 practitioner, and today I'd like to give you some tips about how to give honest feedback that can help people grow. First thing first, let's take care of the basics. To give meaningful feedback, you need to set measurable goals beforehand, and then track the outcomes both by measuring them and by observing directly how someone works. In other words, you need a clear and accurate picture of how a person performed against their actual goals. All this is easier said than done, and it's hard to find a company that does this consistently across the board. Secondly, another basic thing that so many people and businesses forget is that you need to actually know the person you want to give feedback to, because you can hardly deliver effective feedback to someone you don't really know and have barely talked to before. You need to talk to someone to understand what are their motivation drivers, their difficulties, what reasonable goals you can assign to them to help them grow in the trajectory they need in the specific part of their career they're in right now. To get all this information, you'll want to set a habit of having two-way conversations with all the people you have to deliver feedback to. Listen to them. Implement an open-door policy so they can openly talk to you about their professional issues. Listen and be as helpful as possible. This way, you'll earn their respect, making your feedback more meaningful to them. But, which is even more important, you'll also understand what kind of feedback they need and how to phrase it in the most effective way. Now, just by consistently doing these two things, you can improve the efficacy of your feedback by quite a lot. But let's say you've already done this. You already mastered the arts of setting goals, tracking performance, and knowing your subordinates. What else? How can you earn a black belt in helping your staff flourish? For starters, when you're delivering feedback, don't get personal and don't get emotional. Don't bring your personal resentment or frustration into it, ever. Sometimes it's hard. For instance, if someone made the same mistake for the umpteenth time, or if the mistake cost the company a ton of money, or if you got reprimanded for a failure of your team and you're tempted to vent by reprimanding into the material culprit. But don't do it. It's no use. It's hard to imagine how that would motivate anyone to do better. On the contrary, being personal or emotional will most probably make your subordinate angry or resentful or terrified or paranoid. They might start avoiding challenging tasks just to avoid making mistakes and having then to deal with you. They might even report you to HR, and they would be in their right to do so. Or just go on LinkedIn and start looking for other job opportunities. Another piece of advice, which is similar to the previous one, is to never express opinions on a person or their skills. If you tell someone they're lazy, for example, you're not helping them grow. You're informing them that being lazy is just what they are. So what use is trying to get more active? Think of this. If a teacher repeatedly tells a kid they're just not good with numbers, there's a good chance this will turn out to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's the same for adults. It's no use to just go and tell someone they aren't good with a certain skill or set of skills. At the very best, they get offended and ignore your feedback. At the worst, you'll convince them that it's true and they can do nothing about it. In general, try to think how you'd react if someone gave you the feedback you're about to give someone else. Would you get motivated to grow? Or would you get resentful or frightened or confused or demoralized? Then only give the feedback you'd want to hear about yourself. Also, when giving feedback, try to be matter of fact and stick to talking about the work that has or hasn't been done, the performance that has or hasn't been achieved. Give numbers and give real examples. Don't tell a salesman they're bad with cold calls. Instead, tell them they're in the company's 20th percentile for performance and that their cold calling results are not in line with the other kinds of sales he or she has made. And don't try to provide them with a specific solution. Of course, if they're making an obvious technical mistake, it's fine to show them how to do it correctly. But for instance, it wouldn't be advisable to tell the salesman from the previous example that they should do this instead of that during their calls. First of all, because more often than not, those who provide feedback don't have operational experience in their subordinates' fields. So their proposed solutions may very well be as bad as the current behavior they wanted to correct. But even if the advice is good in principle, that's only how you would do that, or how we used to do that many years ago. And that doesn't necessarily mean the person listening to your feedback can do it the same way and get the same results in the context they're operating. This, of course, doesn't mean you should not try to help your employees solve their performance issues. Quite the opposite. It just means you shouldn't come to the meeting with a pre-packaged solution. What you should do is be as positive and constructive as you can. You should have a conversation about what the recipient of your feedback thinks they can do, what they think might help them, discuss together an improvement goal, and agree on a roadmap to reach it. For instance, getting back to the salesman example, you can ask them if it would help them to shadow a top performer, or to attend a coaching program with a consultant, or whatever else is actually feasible in a context, and choose together a strategy. You can ask them if it's reasonable to expect them to get to the 30th percentile in 1 year and to the median in 2, or if they see obstacles that must be removed first to get to that result. By agreeing with you on what to reach and how, your staff will feel empowered to grow and take ownership of the path to their own success. So, to wrap things up, in this episode, we discussed how to give effective feedback to your staff. We have seen that the key strategy is to set measurable goals, track performance accurately, and know the single individuals you have to give feedback to. Getting into how to actually deliver the feedback, we have said that you should avoid getting personal or emotional or expressing broad opinions about a person or their skills. Instead, you should stick to the facts, give examples, and discuss with your subordinate about the future goals and the way to achieve them, instead of offering pre-packaged solutions. If you do all of this, I'm sure both your subordinates and your bosses will thank you. This has been an episode of the ITSM Practice Podcast. Once more, I'm Stefano. For any further questions or suggestions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You will find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for listening. Until next time.